Hello, this is Wojciech Pietrzak, also known as Ultima Tulinka. This is how you pronounce both of them. And today something different from the usual video on this channel. When I play my games, I sometimes comment my moves that playing favorable scoring card comes before playing the non-favorable scoring card. And I received a PayPal donation, thank you, the contributor of which asked me in the commentary to the transaction why exactly the better scorings should go before the worse scorings. And this is what I will answer today. First of all, this is only a rule of thumb, one of many rule of thumbs in Twilight Struggle. This means that there are probably many exceptions when this rule doesn't work, and it should be treated only as a hint to manage the particular hand. But why is this hint useful, provided no special reasons claim otherwise? Well, there are two key reasons behind this. First reason is that this is always profitable to have more VPs than fewer victory points, even if it's temporary. And the second is that the scoring card which is played, the VPs from the scoring card when it's played are cached, and before it's played they are virtual. You see, you have 2 or 3 scorings in hand, and by the end of the turn you mustn't have any of them. So you may calculate in your head, okay, this is about 5 VPs, this is about 1 in favor of my opponent, this gives my opponent 1 or 2, so I'll be 2 VPs ahead after playing them all. So what's the deal about the order? But there is a deal, because let's come to the first key reason, VPs. It's always beneficial to have more VPs than fewer VPs, even temporarily. But why? Because it changes dynamics of the game, and it changes it in favor of having more VPs. For example, if playing the scoring card switches between USSR advantage and no USSR advantage, it may unboost or boost the reformer. If it crosses the border of 6 victory points of advantage for either side, it changes the outcome of war games if the card is played right now. And finally, if the overall scoring is close to the auto victory, it may cause the opponent play some moves which would be suboptimal otherwise. For example, if I'm 10 victory points ahead and I have 2 scoring cards, one of which gives me 7 victory points and the other one giving my opponent 8 victory points. If I play the better card, I am 17 victory points ahead, and this causes my opponent to fear. He doesn't know that I have the other scoring card, but he knows that 3 more VPs in my favor just end the game. So maybe he's gonna play Cultural Revolution for 1 victory point instead of keeping it to grab the China card. Maybe he's gonna play Salt Negotiations and grab Nuclear Test Ban just to cash victory point from Nuclear Test Ban, which he wouldn't play otherwise. He's just wasting the potential of his cards. Or maybe he's just gonna play his scoring card before boosting the region and cash more victory points from it. So this is one reason. And of course, this works on the other side. If your opponent is 10 victory points ahead, pushing him to 70 victory points ahead may cause him win on the spot with arms race or OPEC or a successful space race attempt. Whereas taking back the victory points to only 2 victory points of his advantage keeps the game even for a moment, of course. You will have to give the victory points back, but you are not in danger of immediate losing it. And this USSR advantage or 6 victory points borders are quite stable, but the other reason is fluent, because it of course matters whether you go to 70 victory points or 12, but 12 just makes the same as 17, just weaker. If a scoring giving you 8 victory points is still somewhere in the deck, 12 is as good threat as 17 for the opponent. So that's one key reason. The second key reason is that once cashed, the victory points are given. Before cashing, they are virtual. You mustn't hold the scoring card, but this doesn't mean that you have to actually score it. I mean, if I'm USA in the mid-war and I have several unfavorable scorings, I can always count on Ask Not played by my USSR opponent to discard the scoring card from my hand. And even if I know that he doesn't have Ask Not, there are several other discarders, like Aldrich Ames, like 5-year plan from the other side, like terrorism, etc., etc. So it's never certain that you are going to play the scoring card. On the very edge case, you may even hold the scoring card. I know it's illegal, and if you do it, you are losing the game. But if you have Europe scoring and your opponent controls Europe, it doesn't really matter whether you lose by scoring Europe or by holding the scoring card. But before you score the card, many things may happen. Your opponent may lose by DEFCON. Your opponent may lose by auto victory points. Your opponent may as well have unfavorable scoring, like say it's 19 victory points in USA favor, and USSR controls Europe, USA has Europe scoring, and USSR has some scoring giving USA a victory point. So if USSR scores the card, he loses before you lose with Europe scoring. If he doesn't, he's gonna hold a scoring, and you can also hold scoring trying your opponent. This especially works for USA, because if both players hold scoring cards, the USA player wins. So this was the general key behind. And about war games and the Reformer, even if you don't have these cards, your opponent may be frightened about playing them, or maybe waiting for playing them under better occasions, may wait for war games, wait with war games until it's winning for him, or may be hesitant to play war games caring about your Star Wars or SALT negotiations. So that's it, simply. And okay, so when doesn't it work? Most of the reasoning bases on the fact that your opponent doesn't know about your scoring cards, especially your bad scoring cards. If it's false, the reasoning is also somewhat weaker. If your opponent knows your hand, the entire hand via CIA, Long Gunman, Aldrich Ames, or just scoring cards via the Cambridge 5, this dynamics doesn't work. And you probably should reconsider the order of playing scoring cards. Also, the volatility of regions is a very important factor. For example, if a region can only get worse to you and the other region is volatile, it's better to score the region which can only get worse and then fight for the other region. Sometimes the only way to fight for regions is to give up other regions. For example, if USA has Central America scoring, Africa scoring, South African unrest and Portuguese empire crumbles, it may be true that regardless of the current scoring, it's recommended to score Africa first, then to play Portuguese empire crumbles and South African unrest, allow USSR make damage in Africa which has just been scored, and use the operation points to boost the position in Central America and score it for better score, provided it's undoable with other cards. A special case is in turn 3 and turn 7, when you have multiple scorings and your opponent knows about some of them but doesn't know about the others. In such a case, it's sometimes useful to prioritize the scorings known by your opponent over the scorings unknown by your opponent. This reminds me one game I was playing against a Dutch player in 2015 in Warsaw Twilight Struggle Convention, and I played a simple move which made him so impressed that he just stopped fighting in a quite tough game for me. It was turn 7, action round 5, I was USSR, and I had one scoring he knew about. And in action round 5, I played Quagmire on myself and repaired the region, the scoring of which I had, and he knew about it. He answered in this region, equalizing it, and then I scored the region. He claimed that it was illegal, that I should have discarded the card first. I asked another Dutchman, Daniel Hogetorn, who was organizing this tournament, to watch into my hand and without revealing it to confirm that my move was legal, which he did. And then my Dutch opponent realized that I actually had another scoring, which had returned, but he absolutely didn't know which one was it. So he knew that whatever he plays, I won't respond due to being quagmired, but he didn't know which region to fight. And he actually picked the wrong one, but he really had 20% chance and no particular reasoning to think about one or other region, because I had planned it from the beginning of the turn. I got quite miserable hand and I was playing just normally, not under the particular regions except the one I knew and I knew my opponent was knowing about. I was just, okay, let's go to the empty battleground, let's queue somewhere when it changes outcome, switching between regions. And this prioritization made my opponent not knowing what exactly was going on. Of course, there are other exceptions. Turn 10 is exceptional to this rule somewhat, because the general considerations still apply, but the dynamics of turn 10 is very different. This will be probably covered in another video, and also the problem of headlining scoring card will also be covered in another video, perhaps, not a promise. However, all the reasoning stated here doesn't apply to the headline phase, of course, but may apply to the headline phase for the player who picks at opponent's headline due to the space race. So, summarizing, Only a rule of thumb, it works because it's better to have more VPs than fewer VPs, even if it's for several action rounds. It's better because it's possible to avoid scoring some cards, and there are many situations when it doesn't work. So it was the video upon the request of the channel contributor. Thank you for watching. Please give me a like if you like this video. Please subscribe this channel, and see you next time.